Well, I guess I want to be world champion. I want to win the Freeride World Tour. That is their end goal for competing. But also, I just want to go and ride big, open power faces.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Stokely. Really glad to have you here joining us for this conversation today. I really just want to take a moment now to stop and reflect on where we are and where we gather to listen to this podcast and where we've been to create it. I'd like to pay my respects to the traditional custodians upon the lands which we gather, and I'd like to pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. Today I get to speak with Michaela Davis-Meehan, big mountain rider and one of the only Aussies to have ever been on the Freeride World Tour. And for someone that spent her life growing up and learning the mountains of Perisher in New South Wales, Australia, it's pretty amazing to see her hit the big time and ride the big mountains over in Europe and America. So we get to hear about her story and how she went from riding those pretty amateur grade slopes of Perisher to some of the steepest slopes in the world in one of the biggest competitions of free riding in the world. So I really hope you enjoy it. We get to touch on a lot of things in the journey that's taken her from A to B and everything that might be ahead of her as well. So I really hope you enjoy this conversation. Thanks a lot for joining us. Reach out to us at the Stokely Podcast and we'll chat to you later. Thanks a lot for taking the time to have a chat today.
Yeah, that's all right. Not much else going on.
Yeah. How's Melbourne lockdown been for you?
Yeah, it's actually pretty good. I've just started studying, so I'm doing a diploma in film and television, which is full time. So it's kind of good timing because now it's keeping me busy, and then just surfing in between that. So I'm doing all right.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like too much of a lockdown at all. What are your hopes and aspirations with film and television?
Well, I want to get into, I guess, filming, maybe just help as well with my snowboarding, filming edits and things and putting them together. But I'd like to, do freelance film and make my own edits of other people, maybe more like nature adventure kind of stuff, things like that you see the North Face doing. And then also, brand content and weddings for the money side of stuff. But
yeah.
Just like a backup plan for when I'm not snowboarding.
Yeah. I find that so funny. I've worked a lot with people that film the really fun stuff, like being out on mountains all day and things like that. And then once you get to know them and chat to them, quite a few of them, and I also film weddings and I film a lot of really boring stuff. But in your mind, you're like, oh, you must have the best job in the world. It's like, yeah, until it's 4 a.m. and a bride's yelling at me because she needs something done. You're like, oh, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
So
you've got to take those jobs to be able to do the fun stuff as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned filming nature and things like that. Is that because you would what's the thought process there? Would you
more just adventure stuff, camping trips and just, I guess it's all the stuff that I love. And yeah, I just like to film it and make cool videos of it.
Yeah.
Other people doing it as well. Mm.
So Michaela, maybe you can take us back a little bit and we can figure out why you love the things you love. Currently you're, like you said, we're in a bit of a lockdown studying and things like that, but that wasn't really the plan. Or I guess it might have been a little bit different if all the doors you thought would be open right now were still open. But what would you have otherwise been doing if you weren't in the situation right now?
Well, I guess the good thing for me is that I'm not much of a planner. So my life changes all the time. So it hasn't affected me too much because I just never know what I'm doing anyway. So it's just another adventure kind of. I've moved, down near Melbourne way. I've maybe spent 3 days in Victoria my whole life. So when I first came here in quarantine, because I came from Switzerland, I was like, where do I live? Where am I? Because I couldn't go anywhere. I was like, This is weird. But I've made some good friends since then. But I guess I would have been, I mean, I'm still training, but that's kind of been a bit harder to do. So, just I would have been smashing out the training. I had a really good trainer up north, which unfortunately I've had to come down and find some new people. But that's still happening. I've got a PT that I see twice a week, and I've just started doing sand dune sprint training, which I've never ever run. So that's killing me. So the plan is just to get as fit as I can until we can go overseas and hopefully do the world tour again.
Yeah. So going back a bit further, you were you've been into snowboarding for quite a while, hey? Like it was you were from like Newcastle originally?
Yeah, Newcastle, 7-hour drive from snow.
Yeah, isn't it? I find it so funny. I grew up on the Mornington Peninsula, and we would do single day trips up to Mount Buller or Hotham even, and it was like 6 hours driving one way. And I just I look back on those times and I'm like, when did that ever become a good idea? You know, you'd skip a day of school, you'd drive 6 hours in the morning, you know, sit on your butt for half a day because you'll learn how to snowboard and then drive home. Just like...
Think of that, but every weekend. There was a time where my parents just loved skiing. So there was a time where our whole family would go down every weekend.
Really?
Doing that drive, 7 hours, spend the weekend. And then if the snow was really good, we'd take Monday off school.
Yeah. And that was your like getting schooled in the snow sport world, I suppose, eh?
Yeah, well, I went to school in Newcastle. In year 9, I went and did a term at Snow Mountains Grammar in Jindabyne because I didn't want to do the drive every weekend. So I went and did boarding school for a season, which was cool because on Wednesdays was sports day, which was snowboarding. So that was cool. And then just back in Newcastle, I was always there's that snowboard chick because no one, and I did inter-schools, but it was just me and my brother. We were the only two from our school. So we kind of tagged on to other schools for it.
And so has your ability as a snowboarder, has that just come from, you know, being able to do it consistently since such a young age?
I don't know, just, you know, natural talent.
Yeah.
Probably, like, it obviously started only like school holidays, which is 2 weeks long. But yeah, I guess it helped that mum and dad loved it so much. So that got me and my brother into it. And then my brother was doing really well, and I used to ride with him and his friends, and they were 2 years older than me. So I think riding with, you know, the older boys definitely stepped up my riding because they were all doing things. I was like, oh yeah, I've got to top that. Or they used to always make me the guinea pig. So, and I had to come through, you know, show off a bit. So I think, it just comes from that. And yeah, obviously consistency over the years and continuing to do it.
Yeah. That's hectic, being the guinea pig. That's like...
I know. I have this one memory. I don't have many from like learning to snowboard, but when I was a kid, I can't remember how young, but in Front Valley, they've got they used to have the 2 jumps, like the smaller side and the bigger side down the bottom. And we were all just sitting the smaller side. And then the boys and my brother were all like, oh, you should try the big one. And I was like, oh, do you reckon? Like, oh, no, I don't know. And then I was coming into the small side, and then last minute, like, I was like, screw it, I'll hit the big one. But that also meant that I didn't have enough speed. But I hit it, I knuckled, ate it, actually hurt my ankle. But everyone I knew saw it, and they're like, oh, you shouldn't have hit that, what are you doing? And I kind of hurt myself, but I also didn't want anyone to know that. I'm like, no, it's fine. I'm like, oh, my ankle's good. But I was out of all the guys, I was the only one to hit it. So, and then they all wussed out. So I was like, come on, boys, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And then I think, just being pushed like that over the years have made me a better rider.
Yeah. Because you've just had a crack at the World Tour, the Freeride World Tour. And you had some incredible results this season. You end up so the season was cut short, hey, and then you ended up finishing second, right?
Yeah, it was just the finals that got cancelled.
Okay.
We all got there on the Friday, and then Friday night they're like, nah, resort's shutting tomorrow. So they tried to squeeze it in, but not quite.
Yeah. And so, I mean, you look at I'll let you explain it a little bit more for sure, but like you're dealing with some pretty gnarly lines, some pretty gnarly mountains. And I can't help but think that all those seeds were planted a long time ago hanging out with those guys when to now grow into this bravery to tackle all the stuff that you're tackling.
Yeah, like I guess I've got a bit of a competitive spirit. It's just like my favorite times of riding when you're just riding with mates and you kind of push each other and they're like, oh, you should hit this. Or like if someone else hits it, then you have that, oh, now I've got to do it.
Yeah.
So riding, the big mountains and just seeing everyone shred and you're just like, oh, I want to step it up and hit something bigger and win.
Have you got on the Freeride World Tour, have you got a pretty good, like the women that you travel with or the crew that you travel with? Is it an uplifting crew despite being competitors?
Yeah, that's actually like my favorite thing about the World Tour, Freeride World Tour. Like I used to compete slopestyle and that was cool. Like everyone's a bit more serious and more competitive. But ever since I got on the World Tour or even the qualifying tour, just like free riding in general, everyone's just super stoked for each other. Like it's just like traveling with a big family. Like everyone's just wants you to do well. Like obviously they still want to win, but just like the vibes when you're out there, it's just like you're doing a run with a bunch of friends, except you go one at a time and get judged on it. But all the girls are really cool. Like I'm really good mates with all of them, and I still talk to them now and we catch up. And then usually, like if someone's had a bad run or didn't do well, you kind of leave them for the rest of the day and then everyone's all sweet again by the after party.
Yeah.
It's cool. I mean, when I'm traveling, because I'm the only Australian, I just travel by myself and like meet up with them all there. But most of them are Euros. So they've got bases that they go back to in between comps. But coming from Australia, I can't really, fly back to Oz and then go back over for the next comp. So I just stay on the road and just travel wherever it leads me in between, which is really cool. It's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I've had a similar experience being like in the trail running world and, the summer season, kind of chasing endless summers of and being over in Europe and not really flying back to Australia in between. Kind of allows for a really good period of time to kind of immerse in that European culture and really get to enjoy it.
Yeah, and because I've done it so many times now, I've got so many friends over there. Like I'll literally just put a post up. I'm like, hey, I'm in Europe on Facebook, and I'll get friends writing like, oh, I'm over here, come visit. I'm like, okay. So that's the really fun part of it.
How does something that kind of grinds me a little bit is that aspect of travel and doing a sport that revolves around being in nature and in the environment, but having that element of always needing to travel and kind of like the negative impact on the environment that has. I imagine like with the World Tour, you're doing a fair bit of traveling, and like, what's your approach to that? Do you ever like think of a way to combat that, or is it kind of just something that just rolls off the back, like water off the duck's back?
The World Tour is really cool. Like they send us an email every month on ways we can help our impact, and then they also pay to fight the carbon. What's the word? The carbon
emissions.
From the flights. So they pay half of that for every flight that we take. And then we can choose to, do the other half. And, just little things, I guess, like that. But, it's definitely tough. I mean,
do you pay the other half?
No.
Come on, I'm sure if you put that onto the North Face, that'd be all right.
Hey? Yeah.
Sure.
I try little things, but, I guess it is tough because we have to travel so much. But just like small things like, maybe carpooling with others from the airports to the next event. we did a lot of that. Usually fit a few of us in there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all the small things add up for sure. And I think that it's pretty cool to hear that the World Tour is proactive in that sense. I didn't realize that was the case, actually.
Yeah, it's really good.
So tell us a little bit about, let's go back to the competition, slopestyle, and what that was like, and your transition over to the Freeride. God, it's really hard to say, isn't it? Freeride World Tour.
Just say FWT. That helps. So I guess I started out in slopestyle. I started when I was about 16 or so, just doing comps in Australia. Back when we used to have the Australian Open and things like that. It was great fun back then. I guess I got better. So I started doing more and started going overseas and doing some, and did that for a long time. With setbacks, from injuries here and there. And then I think I went on a splitboarding trip with Aline Bock, who's a former World Tour champion, in Italy one year. And it was my first time ever splitboarding. And she's like, oh, have you ever tried the Freeride World Tour? I never really heard about it. Like, Mum talked about it a bit, but I was like, oh, no, that sounds cool. And anyway, I ended up looking it up and entering my first comp in New Zealand and won it. And I was like, oh, this is pretty good. I like this. And then at the start, I was like, yeah, I'm going to keep doing slopestyle. And then just as time went on, it's like, actually, I'm really enjoying free riding. I think it was something new as well. So I kind of started from scratch, like learning how – I'm still learning now, but learning how it all works. And it's just – I don't know. For me, like, I still love jumping, but it's just way more exciting than the park. I'm like, oh, my God, there's more than one run on the mountain. So it's more about exploring and seeing what's out there and, hitting things for the first time. It's not just the same jump every run. So, yeah, I really love that aspect of it. And now I just kind of dropped off the slopestyle side and focused on free riding.
Yeah. So just for people who don't really know slopestyle, can you just give us a bit of a description of slopestyle? And then the comparison to the free ride, I guess, a line that, or how do you even describe the course you take on a Freeride World Tour event?
Well, slopestyle, I just tell people, is usually, the jumps and rails and you do tricks. It's pretty straightforward. And then free riding is big mountain riding. So they pick a face. You can go anywhere on that face that you choose and you get judged on overall impression. So, the better the tricks, the bigger the cliff drops, the tighter the chutes, all of that in overall riding, your fluency, things like that. So it's just, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, because, I mean, it's so awesome. Like, me and my mate, we were just watching a few clips of the Freeride World Tour recently. And it's, some of the faces that you say that you get to ride, it just, it's hard to fathom that some people would go and do that by themselves outside of a competition, which is pretty sweet. But with those lines and those faces, how have you been able to understand what kind of line you want to choose? Like, is that been, coming from slopestyle where it's all laid out for you, it's groomed, it's like, it's in a nice, package and you just go and hit whatever you want, to then transitioning over to making your own course essentially?
Yeah. Well, I guess it's just like a more extreme version of, when you're just riding down the hill and you're like, okay, I'm going to turn here, I'm going to turn over there, but yeah, much more extreme. So you basically just look at it from the bottom of the course. There's a fun fact. We don't get to hit the course at all before a comp run. So it's our first time ever doing it, which is crazy. But I've just learned just literally from other competitors, like, because I'm the only Australian when I was doing it, like not growing up, I'm older now, but when I started doing it, and just talking to all the other competitors, like, oh, what do you think about this? Like, where should I go? And they're all really helpful. Maybe not so much, I don't talk much about it to the other girls in my discipline because you don't want them to steal your lines. But you talk to the skiers and, the men, and everyone helps out. And I've definitely gotten better at choosing my line, because what they look for when you do a run is like the more down the floor line it is, like straight down. Like you don't want to start over here and then go all the way up to the other side and hit something. They'd rather it just straight down.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Lines, which is, I've gotten better at that. And yeah, you just choose it, see what adds up. Like you've got to kind of calculate in your head, like if I land here, do I have time to make it to this next feature? Or like I always have a backup plan in my head as well, because if I hit something and then next thing you know, you're looking to the left and you've gone past the next thing, you're like, oh, I was meant to hit that. So you've got to kind of have other options as well. But yeah, it's definitely tough. I actually watched this, I went to this rock climbing film festival one year, and I actually learnt so much from it to take away to my snowboarding. There's this one guy, I can't remember his name, Alex. He's like one of the best rock climbers in the world, but he does this
Alex
insane,
Honnold.
Maybe. And he does this insane visualization. Like he's just on his back pretending he's doing the face, but he gets right into it.
Yeah,
do you know
right.
the one?
Wow.
Anyway,
It could be Alex Honnold. Is that the guy that does free solo, like who's free soloed the El Capitan?
Maybe. I can't.
He's a North Face dude. Anyway, he's pretty good. He's pretty good.
I've learned from that. I took away from that visualization, because I used to always get lost on my runs, because you look at it from the bottom, you take a photo, and then you go to the top and everything's back to front and you can't see anything.
Yeah.
So you've got to kind of pick features of, there's a big rock, I'm going to go around that, and you got to have them in your mind on the way down. Yeah, I took from that, and you started like really visualizing my run, like the night before, and like shutting my eyes, pretending that I'm doing the course, like down to every turn.
Wow.
And that, ever since I started doing that, then I made the world tour, started winning things and not getting lost, which was awesome.
Yeah, right. So that's proven to be a helpful thing. What else have you been able to apply that to? Like when you visualize going down, do you also visualize the result, like winning, or do you not take it that far?
I won't say visualize. I just think I'm like, winning. Like I think of it, but I just focus on, just from as soon as I drop in, like everything, being in the air, the landing, going to the next drop, and then coming into the finish line, and then kind of cut it off there.
So that's helped you. That's helped you stick to your line that you want to choose. But how many times does that actually turn out to be the run? Like, does it turn out to be 100% sometimes, or not so much?
Like this last year, it's only been about the last 2 years when I watched that rock climbing doco, and pretty spot on.
Wow!
Like the first time I did it, I was like, oh my God, I actually did the run I was looking at. Like that never happens. And now it happens most of the time. Or like, a few give and take drops here and there, but pretty spot on, I'd say. Yeah.
Wow. Unreal.
Awesome.
So you're say they just set up a small little base camp at the bottom of the face, and you're down there scoping it out, looking at the face that you got to ride. And then are you guys like boot packing up there, or is there a lift up there normally? Because it's pretty remote terrain. Like it's not on a
backcountry, so you can't get to it from a chairlift.
Yeah.
We have a viewing day the day before. So you go, cruise up, have a look for as long as you want. And then the next day is pretty full on. Like we get up super early because the comp starts around, 8 a.m. So you have to get up there, you get a quick look at the face, and then start the hike up. So, roughly like 40 to an hour hike to the top, and then strap in, and it's usually like your first run of the day. So you've got to be on.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, that's incredible that you don't even get a chance to warm up on slopes that aren't even the slope, and you've just got to be on and ready to go.
Yeah.
What things have you done? Like, what things have you done to make sure that when you've got to turn it on, you're ready to go.
Well, the hike up's a good warm up.
Yeah, I suppose.
And then, I don't know. I think I just get like, my mental game ready the night before, and just back to that visualization, just full prepping myself ready for like, this is that run, and do it so many times in my head that when I do it, it's just like, oh yeah, I've done this before kind of thing. Yeah.
Snowboarding, or all sports, snow sports, have definitely got the potential to create some incredible amounts of joy and ecstasy. It's also got the power to be pretty detrimental to your body if you get injured. How do you deal with that mental aspect? Like, you're hitting things that you've never hit before. You assume that feature and that rock and that cliff is, going to be a 10-meter drop, but it turns out to be 15. Like, how do you mentally psych yourself up to just get after it?
Well, that's the fun part. All right, you just go and it's like, yes, it's the unknown. You're like, oh, what's it gonna be? This is sick. I actually get like the biggest like ecstasy at the bottom of my run. Like, actually, before comps, I hate competitions. I'm like, oh my God, why do I do this to myself? Like, and then I get to the bottom and I'm just like, oh, that's why. Like, it's the best feeling. Like, oh, I just want to go up and do it again. And but even outside of competition, when you have a good run and you're just like, yes, get me back to the top. But I guess like the bad side of things of injury, like, you just don't think about it. Once you start going down that track, then it's just game over. If you have any hesitation, even with slopestyle, as soon as you hesitate, you fall. Like, that's when bad things happen. So you just got to, trust your ability, not pick anything that's, outside of your ability, and just go for it. Yeah,
solid. I mean, because, to take it back a few years, you had a pretty serious injury with your back. Do you mind recounting that? If that's all right, like what happened and that whole process?
Well, I was in America at the Roxy Chicken Jam, which is this big slopestyle comp.
Good name.
And it's just, I was training one day and hitting the jumps, spinning them and like killing it, feeling good. The next day came around, the weather was off, like the snow had changed, and I probably shouldn't have hit it, but I was just so like in the zone. And then I just went in with the same speed, which wasn't enough, and knuckled about a 70-foot jump. So just to flat, this was like jumping out of a building. But it's so weird because I'd never really broken anything before, and I got winded. I was like, oh yeah, I'll just get my breath back and then keep riding. And I got my breath back, and like the medics came, and I was like, oh, can you unstrap my board? And they did that. And I was like, oh, actually, never mind, I can't move my legs. And I was still just like, oh, I just tweak something. Like, it's because the pain hadn't really kicked in yet. I was like, it's fine. I got like, the blood bucket down to the bottom. I was in that like, this is cool. I've never been in one of these before. And once I got to the bottom, that's when the pain started kicking in. But I still didn't, think too bad of it until I got to the hospital, had x-rays. They're like, yep, you're going to need surgery. And I did compressed fracture of my T9. And though I got 8, 9, and 10 fused together. And my insurance was really good because I was 18 at the time. They flew my mum over to the States because I had surgery in Reno. But I guess I was so drugged up, so it didn't really affect me too much at the time. But then I got back to Oz and, through the healing process, and I was like, maybe I'm not going to compete professionally anymore. Like, and then I went and did some studying, like moved out of home, went for a job. And then after about 9 months, I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? This sucks. And I think I tried going back to snowboarding at one point, but it was like kind of too painful. And then, I had a bit of a break. I just realized I'm not cut out for the, what people call a normal life, to have a job and just, work and not be doing anything extreme. So I worked hard, got back to it, and went back to hitting jumps. And I remember my first time back in Breckenridge, I went around a few of the jumps the first go, and then I just started hitting them, and yeah, got back to being good again. And, you know, a few years later, I made the Shadow Olympic team and all was good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So you broke your back, right? That's like is that the, you know, the layman's terms of what happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when that happened, like when you break your back, is your whole, like when you say, oh, you weren't in pain, but then the pain kicked in, is that like a whole body pain? Or is that?
Yeah, all I remember is being in the ambulance. I had this ambulance guy was really nice. He was trying to, you know, take my mind off it and talk to me. But we were going like 40 kilometers an hour, and just every bump, I was like, can you go slower? Apparently I got terrible veins, so they didn't give me any morphine. So I'm just laying there on a wooden plank, and it was a bad pain. It wasn't great. Once the morphine came there, I was like, oh, sweet, I can go home now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah.
And then 2 years later, I had surgery again because I had screws and rods in. I got them taken out. That was a bit of a quicker healing process.
Yeah. So because that sounds like pretty invasive surgery to get yourself fixed up and fuse all those, vertebrae, right?
Yeah, it's
like,
all fused.
Was that the first kind of major injury you had of that caliber, or had you like broken arms and things like that too?
No, that was my first one.
Really?
Yeah, you know, go hard or go home. Get the big ones out of the way, I used to say, and then I'll be sweet for the rest of the time, which I did pretty good for a while. I think about 8 years until I tore my ACL and had a knee reconstruction. So
yeah, right.
I only had 2 major ones, which is
and they're big ones. They're decent.
Yeah.
So what age were you? Sorry, when you broke your back?
So I was 18 when I did my back.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. And you said that like you kind of, to be honest, you did skip over that there's a fair process of getting back from that time in after surgery, post surgery. What were the things during that time that stick out for you the most? Like, was that difficult being so mobile and so fit and 18 and just, you know, one of those points in, you know, they say being 18 is like a moment of prime time in your life. You just got everything ahead of you. You know, how long did you have to kind of put things aside, and how was that?
Yeah, I think I had it was a whole year. Like I had to kind of relearn to walk. I had a walker for 6 weeks, and you know, like go to the shopping centre and we get the wheelchair so I could go around and yeah, I had a back brace for a long time as well. But I don't know. You just got to, I guess it is a shitty thing, but take the good with the bad. Like I milked it so good with my brother and stuff. I always got the front seat of the car, you know, things like that. I did go to like a few parties with my friends, but obviously I was still healing at that time. I was taking some of my painkillers and I was life of party.
Wow.
But yeah, it does suck like not being able to do anything. The biggest thing I remember was like dropping things. I didn't realize how much I drop stuff. Like I don't know if I do, but just because it took like 10 minutes to pick something up, like to try and get down and get it. So that was a big thing that I noticed the most.
Wow.
Yeah, you just got to find like lots of other hobbies and little things. Like even when I did my knee, you just got to find things to keep you occupied. Like I started learning poi, which is like, you know, those fireballs, and like you can spin them around, just like random things like that. Yes. So all that kind of stuff.
You know, like if someone finds himself in that situation where they, I hope no one does, but if they do, like, what are the things that stood out for you that people did, like in your closest knit community, that really stick with you as a really important thing?
Well, I was back at my parents' house, which was like my parents were so supportive and like super helpful. It's good to have someone there like helping you out, you know, cooking your dinner, just little things like that. Even if you're by yourself, you know, if you've got good friends bringing over your meals or my friends would pick me up in their car and we'd just go for a drive, like, because I couldn't do much. So just having friends doing those sort of things. And yeah, I never used to watch movies really before, and then I watched a lot during rehab, and now I love them. So yeah, just having a good support crew, like friends and family that, you know, will still hang out with you and do nothing with you really helps. Yeah.
I mean, you must have an incredible attitude to be able to get through something like that, and then you know, and then just want to even contemplate getting back on a board again. What was that process like?
Yeah, well, so long ago now, but my knee's more recent. That was 2 years ago. Yeah, it's just having a good mindset. Like, I'm a pretty optimistic person, and, you know, I always see the glass half full. So I just kept looking on the bright sides. Like, it's like, oh, it's cool. It's like a little downtime. Like, I had a summer. I haven't had a summer in so long, like in years. So I had my first summer for a while, had a tan. That was nice. Just got to do things that I don't get to do when I travel so much. Like, being on the world tour and competing snowboarding, you're always away for months of the year. And then back in Australia, you go away again. So it's having like a bit of a routine. Like, I joined a yoga studio, got to do that every day, and just like little things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Small victories, I suppose. Hey.
Yeah. Just you got to find things that, you never have the time to do other times. Like now, like I've just started, studying. Like, I never have time to do any of that because I'm always on the road. So it's something different, and it's keeping me busy, which is really cool.
Yeah, nice. So you said that you eventually got back to doing some work, and you started working again, and not really going down that path of trying out to be professional snowboarder. And that got to a point where you weren't resonating with it. I'm just trying to understand, like, was that pain worse than the pain of being, you know, essentially like paralyzed in a hospital, and then just being like, oh, this sucks?
Actually, I reckon it is. Like, it's because that's an emotional pain. Like, I can take physical pain. That seems like nothing when it's compared to emotional, like, and just not enjoying. I mean, I'm still enjoying life, but just like, I just could not imagine, you know, having a career where I just sit at a desk or something and work 9 to 5. Like, that's, for me, I couldn't do that. And so that would definitely be harder than, you know, breaking a few bones every 8 years or something. Yeah.
Yeah, that's massive, because I feel like there's probably a lot of people out in the world that may be feeling that pain of that kind of like, oh, I'm really not digging this job. But what was the point for you that you were like, you know, that made the switch? Like, definitely, I'm just like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was more just a gradual thing, just doing it after time. Like, I was studying, I was doing my Cert 3 in outdoor recreation, which is lots of outdoor stuff, and it was really cool. But at the same time, you know, I'm not the lifestyle of snowboarding. Like, it's not just the snowboard part, it's the lifestyle, which I miss the most, I think. So yeah, I was like, oh, I just need to get back to doing that, because that's when I'm most happy.
Unreal. Did you what was when you're coming back into the world and back into that frame of mind that you're going to give it a crack, what were the things you called upon to be like, all right, well, if I'm going to do this, like, I need to speak to this person, I need to start doing this? Like, how did you figure out a process to get back to where you were?
I started doing just like these snowboard camps. I do a lot with TSC in Colorado, and they're just, you know, you go over for the season and ride with a coach and other shredders. Just riding with other people got me kind of back into it. And they used to start small, like a few little comps, and build your confidence back up, like landing a run and things like that, and just slowly work your way up. Yeah.
You're right. Did you have to, you know, snowboarding is pretty demanding sport. I feel like, like you can definitely get a workout doing it. Do you have to like, what are the other elements of training that, like, specifically now, like in your off season, what are the things that you call upon to include into your routine to make you the best you can be when you actually get out on a face?
Yeah, well, like I've always done training, but before or after I did my knee and before I made the world tour, that's when I was like, all right, I need to step this up. So I found this guy, he's done strongman training. So I used to go with him twice a week. And then on Saturdays we did strongman training, like made me push his car and flipping tires and things like that. And then because I'm bad in the gym, like I get really bored of routine and I can't do it myself. Like I have to have a PT. I've accepted that. But so I also did some boxing and Muay Thai the rest of the days. And now that I've moved down here and things are closed, I've still got a PT. I've just started doing sand dune sprint training, but lots of strength and plyometric stuff. So yeah, lots of jumping and just getting as strong as I can, ready to land those drops. And that's really paid off. Getting as strong as I can, like last year, that helped out a lot. I just felt better on the board. And so this year I'm like, okay, if I've got till January, that's a few months, I just want to get as fit as I can. Just blow them out of the park.
Yeah. So that positive attitude is not going to let you get away with not blowing them away. That's for sure. Did you ever consider looking a lot at your diet and things like that too? Because I remember, like, you mentioned that you were on the Shadow Olympic team, and like whenever I think of Olympics, I think, like they must have a whole team behind them, nutritionists and people like sleep doctors and things like that to get those like absolute minute 1%ers of things to all work in progress and allow you to be optimal at your sport or whatnot. So, like, did you consider all that kind of things? And I come at this question because when I worked at Salomon and we looked at doing, there was a joke that went around and there was a Salomon running academy, right? And so all the sponsored running athletes would get together and do like a big summer camp, right? And then they had the same thing with all the snowboard and ski athletes, all the winter sport athletes. And there was a picture that showed the fridge at the summer running academy for the runners, and there was a fridge that showed the winter one for all the snow sports, and one was full of water and one was just full of alcohol. And so I'm saying, like, I know that, and I've been around snowboarding a fair bit and been on the mountains and après and all of that. It's, you tend to have a pretty good party after a few days on the slopes. And my thought is, like, have you considered, or how much have you looked into that element of your training and fitness?
Yeah, that's actually what's one thing I love about snowboarding and skiing. Like, yeah, we're all athletes, but we're a special breed of athletes. Like, we train hard, but, compared to like a biathlon person or something, like, it's a whole different breed. Like, we've got the parties but that's why I love it. It's like we're a chill athlete. But no, I haven't really looked into too much of like nutrition side of things. I don't think I eat too bad anyway, but it would be really cool. It is kind of tough, I guess, growing up. There's not a whole lot of pathways, especially for free riding for Australians. So like I've always just kind of done my own thing, got my own PT, and I just, never looked into nutrition yet, I guess. It should be something I should look into.
Until now, yeah.
Yeah.
I know someone. I'll put you in touch. So, like you said, being on the Freeride World Tour for an Australian, it's something that isn't really a common thing. Coming from a place like Australia, we don't really have epic mountains. So I know you did get to go out and do that film, that West Faces film with the North Face crew out in the back of, where was that? The back of Cozzy, or?
Yeah, you leave from Guthiga and go up the back over there. Yeah, that was really cool. I mean, main range.
How does that compare to the stuff you'd be riding at, say, like Verbier or Chamonix?
Yeah, it's actually pretty good. Like, I didn't even know we had those mountains here in Oz. So that was really cool to ride. It was like being over in Europe. But even now, like riding now on the World Tour, being my first year, they're some of the biggest faces I've ever ridden in my comp run. So it was like the first time I've hit those and the steepest faces. But yeah, it's really exciting just to be doing some new stuff and going that big and steep. Keeps it interesting.
Yeah, it's unreal. Yeah. Do you have like, it's if you've who are the people that you've been able to look up to that have gone before you in this space that are particularly Australians or New Zealanders?
Well, we haven't. I'm the first snowboard women to make it onto there. So there was one back in the day, Amber. But yeah, just the girls that I ride with now, like on the tour, like everyone's so awesome and like it's fun. I feel like I've become a better rider just having fun shred days with them in between comps. Like especially with Erica Vikander, she's the fastest rider I know. Like usually I'm a pretty cruisy snowboarder. Like I'll just, pot along down to the bottom. But she just goes fast. And so to keep up with her, I'm like going quick with her. And yeah, it makes you a better rider riding with them. And then, of course, there's Marion Harity, who won the tour. She's won it 3 times in a row now. I definitely look up to her and want to kind of, push her as well and try and step up the level of snowboarding. I want to start going bigger and, just bring it up. Yeah.
Yeah. So what it would be interesting, as you said, that you're like one of the first to be on the tour from this part, this part of the world, and that's setting a pretty big example. Have you ever looked at yourself as the role model for people coming behind you?
No, not really. Not really. I don't know. Just think of that stuff so much, but I do want to get more Australians into it for sure. I'm actually planning on starting a snowboard camp called Discover Freeride. And so what they'd come over, for 10 days with me and some other crew. And it's just all about freeriding. We'll teach them how to pick lines, how it all works, what the judges are looking for. And then at the end of the camp, they'll do a 2-star entry-level competition. So it's just to get people into it because it's not much knowledge of it in Oz. It's kind of freeriding's still pretty new for us. Like it's definitely growing, but it'd be cool to get more people. Like we've got so many good riders, half pipe and slopestyle. It'd be cool to show them the freeride side of things. But just to have a pathway of something that they can go and do it rather than just be like, oh, you should try a freeride event. It's like, okay, how do I do that? Where, when? So just help with all of those sort of things.
Yeah. And where would you be looking at doing that initially?
I was hoping to do it in New Zealand or Japan, start with those, and then we could do all of them. There's 2 stars all over the world, so start anywhere. But I think I've got some friends who are trying to bring a freeride comp to Australia, which would be awesome. So they're working on that, and I'm going to help out with that and hopefully get one here, and then we could do it here. Yeah,
definitely. Where would they be looking at actually doing that?
I think somewhere in Hotham. I don't know the area too well, but yeah, Hotham. The only hard thing as well for doing it here is that we have the faces to do it, but a lot of them are out of the way, and then there's no chair to get to afterwards. So the only way to get there is to kind of hike to the bottom of the face. So if anyone's injured, the safety side of things are a bit tough. You need to be able to get someone out of there if anything happens. So unless we get the choppers involved,
yeah,
just got to figure out the logistics. But it's possible.
Yeah,
it will happen.
Yeah, nice. Well, yeah, I mean, stubborn optimism is a pretty big thing that we need to have in the world these days, especially with everything going on. Just got to remain pretty positive.
That's it.
Going back to the Freeride World Tour and actually on a comp day, what are the things that they need you to know about? Because I've assumed that something like avalanche safety is a huge thing, especially when you go anywhere in the backcountry, like having your like transceiver and probe and like having a bit of awareness and with your like avalanche safety and all that. Like, are there requirements to have that when you get on the tour? And to like, do you need to carry anything, or is it all pretty like they just take care of that stuff?
Yeah, so for a comp run, it's compulsory to have your transceiver. You need a backpack with a shovel and probe. You have to have a helmet and a back brace. So they're the official requirements. You can't ride without any of those. But they've got a really good safety team at every event. Like they're watching the face, weeks and weeks before the comp even happens, and they've got people who go up there and check the snow, and they're like really onto it. And if there's danger of like avalanches, they won't run it. And they bomb the faces as well in the mornings or the night before. We have a riders meeting the night before, and they just tell us about the snowpack and how it's all working. And yeah, they're really good for that. They get up. They've got a crew that gets up even earlier than us to go check it out in the mornings as well, which is really cool. Like I feel safe when I'm going to do it.
Yeah. It's a huge thing. Like those slopes are. I guess how much do they fall in the range of avalanche danger? I suppose there's got to be a fair bit.
We had a 4-star event in Switzerland a couple of years ago, and they bombed it the day of the comp in the morning. The whole face went, the whole thing avalanche. So we couldn't run the comp. So there still are places you can get slough, or that I've seen people be in a little avalanche in their comp run and stuff. Yeah, definitely out there. Can happen.
Yeah, right. Yeah, far out.
Yeah. We actually had one at one of the events, which ended up getting cancelled because the snow was rubbish. But there was an avalanche over the boot track, like where we hiked up. So luckily no one was there at the time. But yeah, you just never know with avalanches. You can do as much research or study of a face as you want. They're just so unpredictable.
Yeah, they are. Hey, like the science that has like come about trying to understand them more and more still always leaves you, like you can do all the tests and everything, and it still always leaves you with this uncertainty of like.
They say the more knowledge, I can't remember the saying, it's like the more knowledge you have, the more danger you're in or something, because you're like, oh yeah, I think I've done all this, I know it's going to be sweet, and then that's when it hits you, because it is just unpredictable. So you can know as much as you want, but you'll never be able to pick where it's going to happen. Yeah.
It's one of those things, kind of like strikes the fear of God on you if you go out backcountry and you don't really know where you are. You think you're all good, but then you see a few things that might tell you otherwise. Yeah.
The hardest thing is like not hitting something, but it's what you got to do. Like, you might see the most pristine face and you're like, yes, it's going to be so sick.
Yeah.
But if the snow's unstable, you've got to know, risk for reward. Like you got to know when to bail on a run. And it's never a bad thing to not hit something. You just got to call it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like summit fever if you're mountaineering or if you're just getting out after it. And the weather's coming in, but you feel like you're so close to the top, but really, like it's never too late to turn around. It's just not worth it.
Yeah.
What I've asked this of a few people I've spoken to through the podcast, and it's the relationship between, and it's a personal thing. There's no right or wrong, but the relationship that you have in regards to an understanding or a feeling of achievement and success. Like, you can win, you could win competitions and that could be like a label which would be considered that's an achievement. It's something you can write on a resume or whatnot. But then what for you like really defines success?
Well, obviously winning is amazing, but I feel like if you're doing your best, that's the most, like that's the biggest success you can have, the feeling of you've tried your best in that run. Like I've had runs where like maybe I've even crashed or, come fifth or something, but I've felt even better than what I have when I've won, just because I've tried something I knew that was going to be tough or hard and I've pushed myself. So just, that feeling of doing is something that feels really good for you and pushing yourself in that aspect. Feeling good in yourself, pushing yourself.
Have you ever, surely you've come up against things that tell you otherwise, like it might even be society, like why are you doing what you're doing? Like, shouldn't you be getting a real job or whatnot? Or, you broke your back, like don't go back and snowboard again. That's silly. Like, how have you been able to back your own belief and be unapologetically yourself when you get faced with those kind of things?
I think growing up with like super supportive parents, like my mum and dad, they tell me I'm the best all the time. They think I'm the best snowboarder in the world. So that has been a big part in my self-confidence with my riding as well. Like I'll do a run and if I don't make it, mum's like, that's all right. You're still the best. Like, you'll do better next time. So just having support around you and friends. I have had, people being like, oh yeah, it's probably time to get a real job and all that. Like, I'm like, what are you talking about? And just being surrounded by people who do ski and snowboard in the same mind frame helps you get through. You're like, well, they say it's awesome, so I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. And is that, if you were to, leave this conversation with a piece of advice or something for people to dream of, like what would that be?
I don't know, just keep, never give up. Just keep following your dreams, every setback, I like this saying, every setback is a setup for a comeback. So, no matter how many injuries you get, it all takes time. Like, you just got to give things time. Things are going to heal. Your knees are going to heal. Your back will heal. You just got to stick in there, enjoy, the time that you're in now, do something new, do something fun. And then once you're ready, just, train hard and get back to doing what you love.
Yeah, that's right. And so what for you, what's the wildest dream that you would have in the space that you're in right now, or a space that you're not in right now, but you're aiming for?
I guess I want to be world champion. I want to win the Freeride World Tour. That is their end goal for competing. But also, like, I just want to go and ride big open power faces. I don't even have to film, but I wouldn't mind doing some filming, but I just want to go do that. Just go somewhere. Actually, it's probably even better not to film it. Just go with a bunch of mates, find some big open lines and just have the best time ever.
So where would that be? AK or where?
Maybe, yeah. AK could be cool. I did my first ever heli trip this year, actually, with some of my winnings. I was like, screw it, I'm here. Let's do this. Now I just want to go bigger and deeper. That could probably be that'd be the best of the best. Yeah.
I was watching a film with Jeremy Jones. I think it was at the start of this year, and he rides this line called the Meteorite, and it just looked incredible. But it was a solid mission. It was a real hike in, then they split boarded up, and it was just this. It was like a mountain, and it looked like a meteorite had struck through the mountain, and that's the line that was there, just this huge face. It was pretty cool.
Worth it. Worth the hike, I bet.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely said so. That's going to be something that you would look to do, even more so than become world champion.
I think at the same time become world champion. I do both. Why not do both?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's my overall goal is to do that. but World Tour is like the now goal, because that's coming up again in January. And I had a taste. I got so close this year, which is crazy because I came back from my knee surgery. I did that about 3 years ago now. And then my first year back on the tour, the qualifying tour, I was like, I'll just ease into it, see how we go, get the knee back working. And I just started winning everything. I think because I was just so relaxed and I was more just, doing it for fun and getting back into it than like, oh my God, so focused, got to win. And I made the World Tour that year. And then this year I was like, first year on the tour, let's just try and stay on it for next year. And I ended up, winning one of them and coming second overall. So I know I can do it. Now I just I've got like the drive for it now, getting so close. I'm like, yes, all right, first place, here we come.
Yeah, fuck yeah, good on you. It's exactly what you need. Like just keep at it with that attitude, and I'm sure what will be will be. But if you're looking at it like that, it's going to be a pretty good thing, no doubt.
Yeah, just keep it fun. That's how we do anything in life, because it's fun.
Without making it not fun, I did want to ask a question. There's sometimes a lot of potential that can be unlocked in a darker place that you don't really want to bother, like you don't really want to look into. Do you think there's any potential that you can unlock within the way you prepare for an event like this that you maybe find uncomfortable, or you actually don't really want to go there and occupy that space? Is anything holding you back in that realm?
Not really. Not that I think of. I mean, the only thing I think of is like actually kind of good doing bad in a comp sometimes, because that pushes you for the next one. Like in kicking horse this year, I didn't do so well. I got fifth. And then that kind of put me for the drive. I was like, all right. And then I won the next one. So yeah, it's good to have those down parts, but yeah, not so much in what you were saying. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that comes back to, what was it? Your setback is a setup for the next
comeback.
One.
It's all about the comeback.
Setback is a setup for the comeback.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a whole lot of learnings in failures. There's no doubt about that.
Exactly. Well, I've come back, like after my knee, I had a whole year off and I've just come back a better rider. Sometimes you need that break as well. Just have a rest in what you're doing and you come back even better.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like a lot of people are probably going through a forced break because of this whole like coronavirus situation, and it's kind of forcing them to take a step back in all sorts of aspects. So yeah, it's going to be real cool to see how the competitive world gets back to being like, well, it's going to be cool to see the competitive world show up and see who really is showing up differently because of like this enforced period.
Yeah. Well, hopefully I just get super fit, even more so than last year. And hopefully, we can travel by January. That's one thing that's kind of a bit on my mind.
Yeah.
Even over.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's on a lot of people's minds, and really like there's no confirmation over how that's going to go down. But
I've got a plan B. I've got my plan B ready. I'm going to buy a van and just travel around Oz and do summer camp life. So always a bright side,
Yeah, absolutely. Why is that appealing to you?
One, the traveling and just living out of a van is pretty cool. And then because it'll be another summer for me. It's been a couple of years now. I don't know. I just love the unknown and just going whatever happens. This pink hair is a result of me stuck in lockdown because I can't travel. I'm changing other things. So.
It definitely stands out with the black jacket and the just kind of khaki.
And this is faded. You should have seen it when I first did it. It was bright.
Nice work. I'm sure down on the peninsula it's a welcome theme, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I hope your sand sprints go good. That's some good training.
That's killer. And it's really good. The guy who we're doing it with, Moose, he's a motivational coach as well. So he does the whole mind frame of competitiveness as well. And actually, he was saying last week that kind of thing where it's not about doing, like, being the best, like being first. It's about you doing your best, and that's success. So I think he's got some good things to say. And in between hill sprints, he's doing that while I'm trying to, like, die and catch my breath.
Yeah, that sounds like a good combo. Physical training and mental training as well.
Yeah.
Rad. Hey, Michaela, thanks heaps for taking the time out of your day to have a chat. I think it's really, really incredible what you've been able to achieve in your career snowboarding. And it's so, one of the reasons I wanted to chat to you is just because it's so rad to, have a female Australian be on the Freeride World Tour, and to be able to step up to that level of competition and be able to mix it with the people like the Euros and the Americans, Canadians, and the people that get these incredible faces and these incredible mountains to ride, ever since they were knee high to a grasshopper. And then for someone like yourself to be able to go up and to compete with them it's like, I'm just stoked because wave that flag, good on you. It's so rad.
Thank you. Well, it's good to hear, because I feel like I forget how awesome it is sometimes until you kind of talk about it with your friends or people, and then you're just like, oh, hang on, that's sick. Am I doing that? You're like, that was me. Cool. Yeah, so thank you.
Hi everyone, thanks again for joining us here at Stokely. I really appreciate Michaela for her time, and I really hope you enjoyed that conversation. It's pretty amazing where we can go if we put our mind and put our passion to it. So I hope you could take something from it, and I hope you could apply it to your own life. I hope this sparks conversation and helps us all maintain the art of conversation. So until next time, take care, keep healthy, and look after yourselves and everyone around you. Reach out to us at Stokely Podcast, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thanks a lot.